So in today's video, which is going to be a beginner's video, I'm going to show how to use one channel to troubleshoot another channel. Say for example, if you have a stereo amplifier or if you have a stereo receiver. Let's say you don't have very much test equipment and you want to know, okay, which section is giving me a problem. So you can try this out. It's really basic. Don't need very much. We need here I've got these alligator clips with some wire. We need that. What we also need is a non-polarized 0.47 microfarad capacitor, which I don't have. So what I'm going to do here is I've got two 1 microfarad electrolytic capacitors, and I'm going to connect these together, and that's basically going to give me 0.5 microfarads. What I'm going to do here is connect basically the minus to the minus, something like that. But I'm going to connect these in such a way that I can reuse these capacitors again, because I think these are my last two 1 microfarad 50 volt capacitors. And again, as I said, I don't know when I'm going to be at a electronics parts store anytime soon. So what do we need the capacitor for? Basically we need for DC isolation. As we know, the capacitor lets AC pass through but blocks DC, because we don't want the DC from one channel getting to the other channel. So that's basically what this is for. So I'm going to go ahead and solder these together temporarily, and then I'm going to try to put them, hook this up to the alligator clip here, and that's going to be like the end of the probe. So now I'm double checking the capacitance, and we see I've got right over 0.5 microfarad, which is exactly what I want. Now here's my odd looking capacitor, non-polarized now, and I just twisted the ends together here, and then I used a piece of shrink tubing. Then I decided, okay, this is temporary, I'm not going to cut it off. Then I did want to cut it off, and then I noticed, wait, having this on here, this helps me actually hold it bizarrely enough, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep it like that. And I think I'm going to put a little piece of shrink tubing over the end here, and then I'm going to be using it like something like that. Then kind of a weird looking setup, but it'll hopefully work. So it looks like I'm making progress, and it's getting more complicated by the minute. I decided to put a piece of shrink tubing over here, and of course it was too thick, so I ended up taking a piece of solid wire which I had laying around and just wrapped it around the capacitor legs, soldered it together so it'd be thick enough, and then slipped this over there. And now this is like going to be my probe tip, and hopefully that's going to work. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do something here, because this is going to be like this or something like that, and I'll have to see how that actually works out. Now here's my completed little version here, and you can see here's one end of the capacitor, and here's the other end, and of course this middle lead here actually goes nowhere. These are just the two grounds of the capacitors together, and I've got it like this because I'm going to probably reuse these capacitors. And also I figured out, well, it'd be easy to hold like this too. Well, what else I can do, I can say, for example, I can hold it like this. Say if I got two signal paths, and I can put these right next to each other. Or for example, I could use like this alligator clip lead, hook this to the alligator clip I'm holding here in my hand to one channel, and then the other end of the non-polarized capacitor I made would go to the other channel. So that would be how I would use that. And as an old test subject here, I'm using the Pioneer SX 590 again, since the guy hasn't came by and picked it up yet. I don't think I'll destroy anything. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to feed a signal into the bad channel. That's why I've got an audio generator hooked up, and I've only got one. Let me show this here just a second. So here's my setup here. This is going to be a simulation. I just want to show how things could be done. Let's say, for example, I have a bad left channel and the right channel is good. We have to have one channel that is good, or else this is not going to work. So I feed the signal into the bad channel, which is the left channel, and then I bridge into the right channel down the audio signal flow. Say I start at the input, and then I can go all the way up to the amplifier output. And you notice here I have a speaker hooked up, but it's only hooked up to the right channel, which is the good channel. So you can see me now in action. Now I'm going to bridge the channels. I'm starting at the phono inputs, and I'm going to work my way down the line. Again, I'm feeding into the bad channel and bridging to the good channel. And if I would follow this down the line, say, and suddenly I didn't get any output anymore, or the output sounded really bad, then I would know, okay, my problem would be between the bridging I did at the end and the bridging before that. So let me go ahead and try to show this a little bit. I got to turn the volume down. Let me get on there. It's kind of hard to do. I can hear that. So that shows me the bad channel. Again, this is a simulation. This channel is not really bad. Is good up to this point. And you can't be like, this is the phono section, so you're going to have a bunch of, you see, like hum here too, but you can't worry about that. That hum's there because these signal levels are so really low. Now I'm in the phono preamplifier section, and what I'm doing now is connecting the base of one channel, basically the base of a transistor in one channel, to the base of a transistor in the other channel. Basically I'm in the phono preamplifier section. And you can see what happens when I remove the, you can hear the signal coming in through the speaker. Now watch when I remove it. So that's basically how you do that. The signal came in here where the yellow wire is, and then it goes through the transistors, two transistors here for one channel and two transistors for the other channel, and you just got to keep on basically going on down the line. I think there's one more transistor even before the signal heads out again. It's kind of really hard and tedious to show this all on camera. This is a technique was more like an off-camera technique, but I think you kind of get the drift. Yeah, one thing I do have to mention though, if you have a good service manual which has been scanned good, for example, if you have an original hard copy, that really makes all the difference in the world for a technique like this, because if not, you got to go around, figure out what's what, and trace. You just lose a lot of time without a good service manual. Now I'm at the volume control. I think this is the output from the volume control. We should be able to hear something here. Right there, you can see me manipulating the volume control now. So I'm basically, again, I'm bridging from one channel to the next. And
the signal seems to be okay right where I'm at. So what I can do is I can go ahead and completely go on down the line basically until I actually find the problem. So I'll make a little drawing here to show how that what I actually did looks. Just going to be like a real basic drawing. I'm not going to list and show every little component I checked, but basically this is just like to get people an idea of how to go about doing this. Now here I made another little primitive drawing to kind of show exactly what I did here. And you can see here these three symbols here. There's symbols for the capacitor, and you see I bridged from one channel to the next channel. Like for example, this was from the phono input at the circuit board. It came from the back of the receiver. There was a wire run to the circuit board, and that's where I did the first check amp. And also remember, one of the channels was bad, the other channel was good. I think I said the left channel was the bad channel, so I fed the signal into the left channel, and I wanted to see if something was coming out of the right channel, which it did. Again, this is a simulation, is not the real thing. The phono on my receiver, the phono circuits are actually working. This is just to show how this is done. And then further on down the line, I checked one of the transistors of the phono preamp, and again I did the same thing again. I bridged from channel to channel. I don't remember, I think I bridged from base to base or collector to collector of one transistor. There's actually a couple of transistors, but I didn't do them all. I just did one by way of example, especially since they weren't that easy to get to, and it would have been really time consuming me to check every little transistor and show how it's done. And the last thing I did is I checked at the volume control, and I checked at the output of the volume control. Here I bridged from the bad channel to the good channel, and the signal still came out. That told me that up to the output of the volume control there was no problem. And of course I could keep on going down the line, and there's a lot of little steps, little checks in between you could do too. You just have to follow the signal path. You can see the signal path here is the arrow from left to right. So then I could have went to the driver circuitry for the amp, or I think the balance control came, and then I believe it was bass and treble, and you could keep on going down the line basically. I hope this kind of makes sense. I didn't have ideal equipment to show this, but that would basically how it would be done. It's really not that hard to do, and you don't need very much to do it. Of course, you could use music too if you don't have a audio generator or a function generator, but I didn't show this using music now because obviously for copyright reasons, then they'll hit me with a copyright offense. So I think that about sums this up. Thanks for watching.